Mic check. 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Making sure y'all can hear me. And y'all hear me. Am I good, Drew? Okay, cool.
15 seconds.
Just got the talk back going today. That's crazy. We're live. Look at that. Hello, everybody. I'm Javon. I am your digital bad boy. And today we're going to do a little class on digital footprint and ethics. So we're going to learn a little bit about just, digital footprint, managing yourself online, keeping yourself safe online, make sure, everything's in order, make sure everything is all good. So I got a little PowerPoint presentation for you, but I guess I can start by just introducing myself a little bit. So I am a creative producer for Rocky Mountain PBS. I've been in the production world myself, though, for about 7 years, going on 8 in August. So I would like to think I know a little bit about what I'm talking about, but I'm always open to learning more and always open to sharing my actual experiences. So one thing I have learned in that experience is that, your digital footprint and the ethics behind it are one of the most important things that you can do before you ever hit record. So we'll just jump right in. So the overview is, we as content creators, we need to understand our digital footprint long before we hit record, long before we edit, long before we really do anything, because we live in a digital world now. And all of the content and things that we're creating, it is not like you're going to have to save it somewhere digitally, and it's going to have to go somewhere and if you don't protect it, you're really risking a lot, and you're going to end up losing everything that you've already built. So we're going to talk about a couple things that can help you, minimize the issues, minimize the damage, minimize things that can potentially happen when we're creating content, and things we're going to be aware of long before we even hit the record button, because we want to make sure that we're safe out here. We don't want to be dangerous. We don't want to be living on the dangerous side. Not when it comes to our content. So we got three key areas. So the first is online digital footprint management. The second, responsible digital engagement. And the third is ethical content creation. We're not going to do these in a particular order. They all really work in tandem. So we will talk about them each as we go through the presentation. Okay, so first part. There's three key things you want to think about when you're thinking about your digital footprint: where you save stuff, how you work on stuff, and how you're protecting your data. So where you save stuff. It's like when you're saving your work, are you using an SSD? Are you using the HDD? Are you using a RAID system? Are you on your friend's laptop? Are you using cloud storage? Do you know what cloud storage is? Do you know what SSD or HDD is? These are things you want to know about long before you even try to record content, because if record or take pictures or whatever kind of content you're making, because if you don't know where you're going to save it, you're already putting it at risk to being lost. So next, how you work. So when you're working on stuff, are you checking out laptops from DCM? I hope you are, because they got plenty of stuff. So yeah, but when you're using those laptops, are you using your friend's laptop or using your personal computer, whatever computer you're using, are you logging into everything like it is yours when you're checking something out? Are you checking your emails on that laptop? Are you wary of, hey, when I give this laptop back, am I going to log out, or is someone going to be able to log right into my Facebook or my Gmail and be able to see all my information? These are things you got to think about when you are when you're working on other laptops, even your personal laptop, you still want to be aware of what is going on and what logins are actually on that laptop. And then the third thing is how you're protecting your data. I mean, of course, this one is pretty straightforward. It's like, how are you protecting it? What systems have you put in place to keep yourself safe from online attacks, from people logging into your account, from keeping your content safe? Like, what are you doing to protect all that? Because your data is very important and it's worth a lot. Okay, so first thing, you got to save your saves. So I see this a lot, and it's usually an issue that a lot of people experience, but you got to start storing stuff on external drives because you don't want to save things just on a computer because a computer can fail. Let's say you have your laptop plugged into the wall and the wall shorts and the wall outlet shorts. Well, now it's going to short your laptop. Now your computer's gone and you don't have any of that stuff backed up. Well, now all that data is gone. You want to have an external drive just to start saving things to a physical location that you can always go back to, that you can always have this data safely on there somewhere else. You don't want to just have it on your computer. Of course, you can have it saved on your computer if you want to. I don't usually do that because, computers usually start with 250 gigs of storage and I will fill that up in one day. So I'd rather just have an external drive. But there's many different kinds of external drives. There's many different types. We'll talk about those a little bit in the next slides. But external drives are a major key to the first line of defense when it comes to storing your files, keeping your data safe, keeping everything safe, because you want to keep everything so you can keep working. You don't want to have to stop your entire project and refilm it because your computer failed or something got lost. So the next thing is storing things online. So there's storing online is another way of saying cloud storage, because when you want to store something, you want to have a cloud storage as well, because what if something happens to your external drive? External drives can fail too. They all I'll share with you some facts about that, but external drives can also fail. They can go bad. You can drop it. You can break it. Something can happen to it. You can spill some water on it, spill some coffee on it. Whatever happens to it, those things can happen, and you don't want to have to stop doing your work just because your external drive failed. I'd much rather be in a situation where I'm like, man, I got to spend money and buy a new drive and move all these files on it again, than spend even more money to get the data off of that drive and not even guarantee I actually get all the data back. I've actually had an external drive fail on me, and it was like 5 terabytes of stuff, all my stuff from 2019. I took it to, I believe, Micro Center. I took it to Micro Center, and it was about $1,500 just to get the data off of it. And I obviously did not get that. I did not have $1,500 just to get it. And they also explained to me, they're like, yeah, we can pull it, but we can't guarantee we'll get all the data back. And I didn't have that drive backed up anywhere. I didn't even have it saved on my computer. So I was pretty much SOL when it came to that. And it sucked. It still sucks because I think about stuff that's on there and I'm like, man, that would be so cool if I had it, but I can't. So yeah. So you want to store stuff online too, just to have a backup to certain things, because at least then you can go online and just re-download it. It might take a while. It might be tedious, but at least you have the file somewhere, and it's just going to be tedious to go get them. And the last thing is back it up again. You want to have another place that stuff is backed up to. Usually this third backup, you want it to be somewhere that's the same temperature, that is The same temperature, it never moves. It's always stable and it's very safe because this will usually be like a bigger drive or have more storage on it. And you want it to be somewhere safe that also it's going to be a little tedious to pull that stuff off of, but it's much better than having to go somewhere and then have somebody do all this work and not even guarantee that you can get all your data back and pay all this money and then hope that you can continue working. Because for someone like me who's working on a project, it's like, well, if I tell a client like, hey, it's going to be a week before we're done editing, and then my drive fails and I don't have it backed up anywhere, and I take it to get fixed and they say, well, it's going to take a week to pull the data off of it, which they can say, depending on how much data it is, they can say that. And well, now that leads into a whole nother situation where I have to explain to the client, and then the client's going to be upset because they're going to be like, well, why didn't you have a backup of the data anyways? What are you doing? And then I could potentially lose that client, which leads to even more issues. So for my small business owners, my video creators, something you want to think about when it comes to storing your stuff. You want to store it on an external drive, you want to store it online, and you want to back it up to another physical location just to keep yourself safe, keep yourself stress-free, minimize the amount of headache that is going to happen, because things happen. At least we can prepare for us. At least the least we can do is prepare ourselves for those times that when things do happen. So yeah. But if you don't believe me, I got some recent facts, and I chose some facts from 2023, 2024, and some as early as 2020, because a lot of the facts that I see, I usually see them and it's like, oh, well, in 2010 this happened, 2015 this happened. And it's really hard for me to listen to those because I'm like, well, it's been 15 years since 2010. So that's not really relevant to me because technology's gotten better. But these facts show that technology has gotten better, but things also have, problems still exist in the data world. So the first one is, by 2023, approximately 140 million hard drives failed worldwide, resulting in an estimated 1.4 exabytes of lost data. So an exabyte is 1 billion gigabytes. So we lost over 1 billion gigabytes of data. Just gone. Never see it again. Can't do anything about it. Consumer cloud storage loss incidents affected over 14.5 million personal accounts in 2024. So last year, over 14.5 million people experienced cloud storage data loss. I was one of those people. I actually had my entire Dropbox got cleared and I didn't know why. And then I went up to Dropbox and they said, well, we don't know what happened either. And I just pretty much lost all my data. But luckily, I had it backed up on a drive. So I wasn't too upset. I was just like, dang, I have to re-upload all this stuff. And it took forever. But again, much better than not having the data. But a funny one is 67% of data loss incidents in 2023 were preventable with proper backup procedures, which means of that 1.4 exabytes, 67% of that was savable if people took the chance to properly back up their files. But they didn't. Now we result in 1.4 exabytes of lost data. I didn't even know exabytes existed, but yeah, it's a lot of data getting lost. But let's talk about a little bit of some costs. So the cost of data loss across the globe has reached over 4.5 billion in 2024, and it's up 3.2 billion since 2020. So in the past 4 or 5 years, data loss cost has gone up billions of dollars, and it sucks. So the average cost data loss per like a small business has ranged from 8,700 in 2020 all the way to 12,300 in 2024. It's not fun. So it's very expensive to lose data. It's very tedious to lose data. It's really easy to back it up, but a lot of people are not doing that. A lot of people are not keeping these things safe. But data is expensive. Your data is worth a lot, and it's very, very, very unfortunate if you lose it. It's not gonna be fun. It's not fun explaining explaining to someone that you lost all the data. I've had it happen before. I've been on a project that literally all the files got messed up, and I went to ask the director of the project. I said, "Well, did you back it up on a hard drive before anything?" They didn't even purchase a hard drive to save everything, and they only saved it on Dropbox. All of the files got corrupted. Now we don't have a project, so we had to refund the entire project, so as if we did not do any work. That sucks. So yeah, you don't want to do that. Just take the time to back it up. Doesn't have to be super expensive, doesn't have to be super crazy, but back up your stuff. Just be safe. So let's talk about external hard drives, the first foundation. We got the first drive is HDD. You'll notice you'll always see HDD, hard disk drive. That's all it stands for, is hard disk drive. These are the traditional hard drives. They're less expensive, but they transfer data much slower than their counterparts. But they also have a bigger form of storage, so you can get a lot of terabytes per storage. You can get a lot of terabytes of storage for a very affordable cost. So they're very affordable, but they're also very fragile. And they're called hard disk drives because they have a spinning disk in them. So when you plug them in, you hear that little, like, you hear them when you turn them on. So you want to be very careful with those ones. You don't want to move them around too much. They do have like portable versions of it, but even in the portable versions, you still want to be very careful with them. You don't want to move them around too much. They're made so, like, you can put them in your backpack, you carry them somewhere, but like, you don't want to be slamming that backpack around. You don't want to be like throwing them around. You don't want to drop those ones because they have a higher chance of just failing on you. So you use those. I use them, but I don't particularly move them around too much. And I use them to store things for my working drives, which leads me into an SSD, or a solid state drive. So SSDs, I use those as what I call a working drive. So the current projects I'm working on, all the stuff is saved on those, but I have a backup on a hard disk drive, and of course on my cloud storage. I only work off SSDs because SSDs have a much faster transfer rate and speeds than their counterpart of HDDs. They move, and they're also very small. So like, I have a little example. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's very small, very small, very portable, but they transfer things at a much faster rate. And they're also just easier to carry around. Like, I'll put this in my pocket and just be like, yeah, boom, got it right here, got all the data. But like, even this one, you can't see it, but it actually has like a whole dent in it, and it's very beat up, and I've had it for like 4 or 5 years. But yeah, they're significantly more durable. Like, they can survive being dropped. They can survive they can survive a lot. But you still want to be careful with them. You still want to be careful with them because they're still hard drives. Like, you still want to love your drives. You don't want to just be throwing them because you can. But these drives, I use SSDs frequently because they're really good for, like, you can use these left and right. You can use these all day, every day, with minimal issues, minimal worries. So I use them as a working drive in tandem with my hard disk drive because, they're easier to use, but they're also significantly more expensive. So, like, to give you some reference, like, these drives that I showed you, they're 2 terabytes. So these SSDs were about $300 a piece, $300-$400 a piece, and these are only 2 terabytes. Now, a hard disk drive for the same storage is probably like 100, 150, maybe $200, depending on like how nice you want it to be. So they're obviously significantly more expensive, but SSDs also don't have higher storage rates. So I think the maximum in SSD, don't quote me on this, but the maximum SSD is about 5 terabytes. Not 5 terabytes. It's like maybe 2 or 3. So you can't store a lot of stuff on these, but they last significantly longer, but they're more expensive. So the last one, I don't ever use these because I don't know too much about them, but they are an option. I would check them out. I actually am going to, at the end of this, in the link of this video, I'll have a resource sheet that has a comparison of all these different kinds of drives. So you can check them out, do your own research. I included some links in there so you can just go and check them out yourself and find out what works best for you. I'm not saying you have to do exactly what I do. Some of you guys want to use an SSD and a large drive. Some of you guys want to use an SSHD. Some guys only want to use an HDD. It's up to you. I'm not going to tell you exactly what to do. I'm just going to give you the resources on where to find these things and let you decide what's going to work best for you. But an SSHD is basically a hybrid. It's the same as a solid state and a hard disk, but these drives, they're the middle ground. They're right there in the middle. They perform better than a hard disk because they're a little bit faster, but they're also more affordable than an SSD. But you can't move them around too much still. It's like they still have spinning parts, but they don't have as many spinning parts. They're that good middle ground. So for those that want, whatever is in the middle, you can grab those. So yeah. So next, let's talk a little bit about cloud storage. So what is cloud storage? Cloud storage is basically storing data and files online somewhere. You can store documents, you can store photos, you can store videos, you can store pretty much, if it's a digital file, PDFs, you can store it on there. And they're on remote servers that you can just access wherever you have an internet connection. So you can download, you can upload, you can put things on, you can take things off on these different cloud storage providers. And you can access your data from anywhere in the world as long as you have an internet connection. So, you have a question?
Is it possible to store multiple file types on an SSD?
Yes. On an SSD, you can store multiple file types. Anything you can store on a hard disk, you can store on an SSD. So you can store PDFs, you can store videos, you can store photos. Me personally, I use my SSDs that has photos on it, has videos on it, has important documents on it, scripts, videos. Well, yeah, any kind of digital file you can store them on it. Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so back to cloud storage. Cloud storage is the same. You can store anything on there, and anywhere you have access to the internet, you can store these files. Like I mentioned earlier, if something happened to your computer, like let's say you spilled some coffee on your motherboard, but you had everything backed up on Dropbox or Microsoft OneDrive or Google Drive, and you had them stored somewhere, and you're like, okay, well, I obviously can't use this computer anymore, or at least for a while you get it repaired. If it's repairable, then you can go to a place like DCM. You can check it out, and you can check out a laptop, and then you can just re-download everything to your hard drive, or you can just access it through your cloud storage provider and have all your files. This is why I say, have a backup online too, because what if your drive failed, your computer failed, and you're like, well, I can go get a computer, but I can't go buy another drive right now. At least then, you have you have options when you have cloud storage. Or if you wanted to send a video to somebody and you have it backed up, but like it's not saved on your phone or it's not saved on your computer, but you have it saved on your cloud storage, you can just send them a link from your cloud storage. They can download it, they can watch it, they can do whatever. and it's up to you. You have full control. Another good thing with cloud storage is like you have full control over who can see it and who can access, who can see it, who can download, who can't download. So there's plenty of different providers and restrictions that you can put on your content to protect your stuff. So like if I wanted to send Drew something and I didn't want him to be able to edit, I can send it to him and say, hey, I just want you to look at this, and I can put restrictions in the link that I sent him that he can only look at it. Then you gotta send me an email, and then yeah. So I'm gonna send Drew a check. I'm gonna send Drew a blank check, and it's gonna say he's gonna have to write me $1 million, and that's it. And then I'm gonna restrict it, be like, hey, it's mine now. Thank you. Appreciate it. But okay, so let's talk about some of the actual providers. There's actually plenty of them, but I'm only going to do 3 because there's a lot. But I included them in the resource sheet. So if you guys want to look at more, then feel free. But I'm only going to include these 3 because, yeah, these are the big 3 anyways. You've probably heard of them. You've probably seen them, but you probably didn't know specifically that they were called cloud storage providers, or you probably just heard cloud storage. But the first one is Dropbox. It's Pioneer. You know, they're the first to do it. They're the first to do it. They're the big dog. You know, they have plenty of third-party integrations. Like, you can put Dropbox with pretty much anything. Like, you can Facebook, your email, Slack. There's so many that I really couldn't even tell you all, but they're just the pioneer of the space. They're the big one. They're the one I use. Well, one of the ones I use because, yeah, and it's just really simple to use. It's really easy to use. You can send links. You can restrict links. You can do pretty much everything you need to do with a cloud storage provider. But if you want a in-depth look at them in the resource sheet, they're in there, and they'll be in the comparisons, and there's long descriptions of everything. But yeah, you feel free to read about it and learn about it a little bit more. But the next one is Google Drive. So Google Drive is probably the biggest one that we all hear about because it's really easy to use, and they already have like an entire ecosystem of they already have a whole ecosystem of everything. So Google Drive, you have Google Docs, Google Sheets, surveys, email, everything already works in tandem together. So this is a really good one for those who want to like collaborate with a lot of people or do different things. It's very easy to tie everything into one another. Like I have a Google Workspace. I have like a professional Google Workspace account. So it's much simpler for me to have Google Drive and Dropbox, because even Dropbox works with Google Drive too. Like you can, yeah, they tie together too, which is awesome. I use it a lot. But yeah, it's very simple to use Google Drive. It's very easy. Like as soon as you sign up with an email, you have access to everything, and you can just upgrade as you need to and store things as you need to, and it's all in one centralized place. Beautiful integration that they have there. And question.
Katrina asks, is my data at risk in the cloud?
Yes, your data is at risk in the cloud because cloud storage providers can still go down. Their servers can go down, their data can be lost, and they can still get hacked. So this is why you want to have it backed up somewhere. But when these things happen, if you have an account with them, you are afforded the damages. So when these companies, like these companies can be sued for those things. So they have a lot of security measures that they're very difficult to get through. Yes, your stuff is at risk, but it's not at very high risk because these companies have to pay you, the user, if they breach your data. because they're literally data storage. And if somebody breaches that storage, well, they're not doing their job at all. So that leads to really big lawsuits. Not good. Not good for them. Not a good look. And it breaches a lot of trust too when they have experiences like that. So you want to they don't want your data to get lost because they don't want to have to pay for it. Data now is worth more than oil, and we all know how important oil is because we all drive cars. We all have gotten gas before, but yeah, these companies don't want to have to pay for that. So yes, it's at risk, but it's not at a very high risk. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Okay. So OneDrive, I personally don't use OneDrive. I don't like it, but it's Windows' version of their cloud storage. It works well for Windows devices and people who use Office 365 a lot. I personally don't use it. I'm not a fan. It never it never was like my favorite thing, but it does do what it needs to do. Like there's a lot of collaboration features, there's a lot of different things. It's really similar to Google Drive because like when you have OneDrive and you use Office 365, it's you got Microsoft Teams, you have PowerPoint, you have Word documents, Sheets, everything, pretty much everything Google has, but Microsoft's version of it as well. So and then people who love Windows operating system, like it works seamlessly with that. I'm just not a fan. I'd rather use Dropbox or Google Drive. It's just simpler for me, but I do know people that use it, and I've never heard complaints about it. I'm just the one that's not a fan. But all three of these and the other ones that are included in the resource sheet, all of these have a free version, except I believe OneDrive. But once you get up to past 15 gigs of storage, and for Google Drive it's 30, you will have to start paying, and you can pay anywhere from $19 a month to $100 a month or more, depending on what it is you want to do. Now, I don't need 500 terabytes of storage online. I probably will never put that much stuff online anyways. Um, yeah, but you can, the more storage you're asking for online, the more you're going to have to pay. That's pretty much a good premise. But I did include pricing and information on that stuff in the resource sheet. So if you really do want to look into it, then there you go. You'll have a resource sheet that you can access and then compare some things and see what works best for you. Now, me personally, I have 5 terabytes of storage on Dropbox. Same thing on Google Drive. I think that's enough. If I lose 10 terabytes of stuff, I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do. But yeah, I also have that backed up on what I call a RAID system. I'm not gonna go into like detail about that, but a RAID system is just it's a big drive. It's very heavy, and you have one hard drive on the top, one on the bottom, and then if this one fails at the top, then it will all the data that's on this drive is actually backed up on the one below it, and yeah, so if this one fails, you can just buy a new hard drive and put it in there, but everything is actually already backed up on the one below. So if anything happens, you still have access. You basically have 2 drives in one, but yeah, they're really heavy, so that does not leave my desk. Does not leave my desk. It's not going in my backpack. I'm not carrying that anywhere. It's going to stay right at home. So there's that. Okay, so, well, what now? We got to talk about like file structure because we're talking about where to save all these different things and like how we save all these different things. And I know this is a little small, so everybody's going to have access to this PDF so you can actually see what I'm looking at because I can't even see when I'm looking at the screen. But yeah, it's so with file structure, you want to be able to go back to your files years later. So like, let's say you have a client or somebody is like, hey, Javon, I did a project with you in 2023 and I want to update the project. I still love the video, but I want to change the date of something. You want to be able to go back to those files years later and still be able to find it exactly. So what I do is I have a big main folder, and in that main folder I have the year, and then under the year I have the project, and then the project will be in what is labeled main folder. So it'll be the project name. So it'll be like I work with this company called Elevation Basements. So it'll be say Elevation Basements, and then it'll have the project name, and then under that I have assets, exports, and project files. So under assets, you'll notice there's a second screenshot on the bottom that is the top that says assets. I have my audio, I have all the footage, I have all the music. So that's where I store all the video or the photos or both. I put all the music that I used in the video edit and in the picture edit, whatever, like all the music that I use, it's going to go in that folder. And all the audio, so like if I did interviews, I did voiceovers, different things like that, it goes in the audio folder. So then when I connect it to the project, it's always going to look for that folder, and it's always there. Going back out to the top, it's like I have exports. Everything I exported, it goes there. Now you can organize that how you like. I usually do, like, I hope I don't have 7 versions of something, because if I do, I'm very upset by the third one. But all my exports, anything I export from a project, it goes in there. It gets organized how I feel it's going to work. But at least then I know, okay, this is where the exports are. I don't need to go into the project files. I don't need to go into the asset folder. I can go right in this folder, and everything I export is going to be there, and it's going to have a date next to it, so I can look at it and see what's the most recent one, what's the oldest one, whatever it is. And then I have my project files. So I'm a video editor, so I use Premiere Pro and After Effects a lot. So I will have a Premiere. I'll have a Premiere folder in there. I'll have an After Effects folder in there. I put a Photoshop folder in there, and I put a Lightroom folder in there. Just so there's a separate folder for all my projects, all the actual project files and the other files. I don't want my projects and things next to each other, because it's just not, it can get very confusing. So I separate everything this way. Now you don't have to do a structure like this. DCM actually there is a class that they kind of show you how you can store stuff, and Austin has a really good system that he uses that I would talk to him about and see, what kind of good file structure you can have. But this is basically mine. I like to do things simple. I like things in threes. So I'm like, hey, if it works, it works, and it doesn't take up a lot of space. And then when I move stuff, I can just move the folder. I don't have to worry about anything just being, I have to move this folder and save this here. It's like, nope, I can just move it across any drive, and it's all going to be the same. So, yeah. All right. So, with all this information, what now? So, no matter what your structure is, no matter what you do, no matter how you save it, keep your content on your drive. Do not save to any computer that is not yours. Do not check out a laptop from DCM, log into all your emails, log into all your social medias, and then leave it on there. Don't make your content on the laptop and then leave it on there, because the moment that I open that laptop and see that your content is on there, well, now if I took it, you would never know. Or if somebody else took it, you would never know, and your content is not safe. So you want to have it saved on your drive. You don't want to save on any computer that is not yours. And you always do. And on the computers that are yours, you want to have it backed up, because if it's not backed up, you're going to be mad when your drive fails. You're going to be mad when something happens to your computer. You're going to be stressed. So just keep that in mind. You don't want to have stuff saved on anything that isn't yours. and anything that is yours, you want to make sure that there is a backup for it somewhere. Okay, so now let's talk about our identity. So with cloud storage and all social medias and different things, you want to have protection on your passwords, and you want to have protection on your privacy. So with passwords, two-factor authentication. Whoa, that is a crazy word to say. Two-factor authentication is probably one of the lifesavers of our generation when it comes to protecting passwords and protecting data. So I shortened it to 2FA because, you just saw how I struggled to say that word. But strong passwords, longer passwords with special characters, capitals, and different things like that. And if you struggle to make passwords or you use the same password, because I am guilty of doing that before until my data got robbed or held for ransom, but luckily I was able to get it back. If you struggle with generating good passwords or you have the same password, there are different platforms that you can use like LastPass or 1Password to help you generate passwords and keep your passwords safe. So if you forget them or anything like that, you can actually go in there and all your stuff is in there. And they protect your data the same way. They don't actually store those things on their servers. They just have security measures to make sure your stuff is safe. And and of course you can check these out and do your own research on different things like that to figure out which one is going to work best for you. One that we use here at Rocky Mountain Public Media is Duo Security. So whenever I have to log into my computer, I always have to have my phone with me, because when I log into my computer, it's going to go through Microsoft Azure, and then it's going to verify who I am, but it's also going to send a message to the Duo app on my phone with a couple numbers that's going to say, enter these 3 numbers to verify that it's you. And if someone so happened to get my login and password to my work computer, even when they try to log in, they'd have to have my phone personally to even get into that. And then by that time, it's like they're already caught. So we know what's going on. They can be locked out. And of course, not all of us have a big security team behind us, but at least with those measures in place, you can have some safety, because people will try to hack you. People will try to take those things. Now, privacy settings. Be aware of the terms of service. Make sure all the content you create, you own when you're using these different platforms like ChatGPT, DeepSeek, Claude, all these different AI platforms and different platforms you're using your stuff. Like, make sure you back it up, but also read the terms of service, because they can say, like, hey, when you make stuff on our platform, it's ours. It's not yours. And then when you go to try to fight it, they're going to take it. So a good example of this is a very recent one. So I don't know if you guys have heard of DeepSeek before, but DeepSeek is an AI platform similar to ChatGPT or Claude. It came out. It's from China, so it came out and it was significant. It performed significantly better than ChatGPT for significantly less the price, and it sent our stock market into a frenzy. But when people were using it, they didn't read the terms of service. And the terms of service said, if you make anything, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, they said this in litigious language, but if you make anything on this site, we own it. You do not own it. So anything that was made, anything that was created, anything that was done, China owns that. So that's why you want to be very wary of these things you're using. Be wary of the terms of service. We do have different AI platforms and things that can read it for you. I know you don't want to read 248 pages of terms and service. I don't either. But you still want to be aware of what you're using, why you're using it, how you're using it, and if the content is yours or not, because it's gonna suck when you go to use something and they say, "Oh, that's not yours. Sorry, buddy, that's ours now." It's gonna hurt your feelings. But okay. So, responsible digital engagement. We live in a world with location. Everybody has access to your location. These different apps have access to your location. These service providers, they want access to your location. Just know, like, of course, you can have whatever settings you want, whatever services you want, but just be aware of these apps and things that you're using. They want to track you. They want to know your location. And do you want them to have your location? Do you want them to know the information? Not all the time. Not everything. Not like you don't always want to have those different things going on. So you want to just be aware of what apps are using it, how they're using it, and when they're using it. Like, are they using it in the background? Are they using it all the time? Or are they using it just when you have that app open? Different things like that. You want to just be aware of those different things. Phishing emails and attacks. This one is actually a big one because we are in a world now where phishing emails and phishing attacks to your phone, they are very prominent. There's a lot of people that have experienced a lot of loss. There's a lot of agencies that have experienced a lot of loss because of phishing emails. And you just want to be careful of what links you're opening. So like a phishing email or attack, they're pretty much just text messages or emails that you get that are sent to you, and they want you to click on a link. They're very convincing, but they want you to click on a link so they have access to everything. So they can take your content, your money, your identity, everything. Your social security, credit score, everything. Anything you log into, they have access to it. So you want to be very aware of what these attacks are, how they work. Because when you're a content creator and you're making a name for yourself as you get more famous, you are more susceptible to these attacks. Especially the more money you make, the more susceptible you are to these attacks, because people are going to try to take those different things from you. They're going to try to take your content. I actually have a friend. She is a big content creator, and she has to use dual security because people try to hack her all the time. But she gets a lot more phishing emails because people are trying to hack her as well. People want to take that content, that information, and ransom it to make you pay them to get all that stuff back, get all the access back. And there have been instances where people have, had their Instagram accounts taken, their TikTok accounts taken, all their social media is pretty much taken over, all the passwords changed, and they're locked out of their own account. And they can't send an email to reset the password because their content is under ransom. And when you spend all that time making that content, and then someone takes it and they want ransom for it, and they say, well, hey, if you want your Instagram back, you want your TikTok back, you want your social media back, that'll be 10 grand. And there's still no guarantee that you're going to get it back, even if you pay them. And it's not just regular people either. Like, it's happened to corporations too. That data has been breached and it's been held for ransom. Yeah. So just be wary of those different emails, those different attacks, and especially with location services, because if people have your location and they have access to all that stuff, they know where you are and they know exactly how they can attack you pretty much. So a couple examples of these attacks. A really popular one was the PayPal one. Like, if you look at it, I mean, if I saw it, I'd be like, wow, this looks pretty convincing. And I'm like, oh man, like, I owe PayPal some money or whatever. It's like, it shocks you. You get scared. You click a link, and now someone has access to all of your stuff. And it's not going to be fun when they have access to your financial information, and that financial information leads to passwords, leads to different things that they can use against you or just take from you. So when these things happen, you want to make sure that you're verifying, because you could just as easily call PayPal or use chat, email, whatever it is. Don't reply to these specific emails. Screenshot them. If they look, good rule of thumb is if they look suspicious, they probably are. If it's shocking, it probably is. You don't remember buying anything, you don't remember doing any of that stuff, 10 times out of 10, or we'll say 9 times out of 10 because I don't know about what's going on. You say 9 times out of 10, it probably is suspicious. It's probably someone that's actually trying to attack you through an email. So just be wary. And then the other one is government impersonation. It's like, hey, we need to file your taxes, or hey, you have a tax return of such and such right after tax season. Like, I use this one because it's tax season. So you'll get different messages like this and you'll see them, and it's like they want you to look at it, get shocked, click a link. They have access. Don't do that. You always want to verify. And one thing I do say, the government knows where you're at. They know how to find you. They know how to contact you. They're not going to send you a text message. I'll tell you, like, the IRS is not going to send you a text message. They're not going to be like, hey, we need this from you. They know where you are. They know where you work. You pay taxes. It's okay. So just be aware of these kind of attacks. If it looks suspicious, it probably is. If it feels wrong, it probably is. Well, how do I share online safely? How do I be online safely? Well, be aware of what you share and who you're sharing with. So are you sharing things on Instagram with your followers? Are you sharing things on TikTok with your followers? That's okay. Are you on Facebook or on YouTube? Just be aware of who you're sharing with and what you are sharing. Because when you don't know who you're sharing to, you could be sharing with anyone. When you don't know what you're sharing, you're putting yourself in a very dangerous situation, and you're also putting yourself in a place that you can violate someone's trust. And when you violate someone's trust, it's very hard to get it back. So you just want to be safe when it comes to those different things. Be aware of what you share and who you're sharing with. Which leads us into ethics. So, misinformation versus disinformation. So, when it comes to what you're sharing and it comes to the different things that you are sharing, as content creators, us as videographers and photographers, like, you want to be aware of the information that you're sharing, whether it's misinformation or disinformation. So, misinformation, it spreads accidentally, while disinformation is created deliberately to deceive. So verify information through multiple credible sources before you're sharing stuff. So if you're going to share things like statistics or controversial claims or different things along those lines, you want to just be cautious and be aware of what you're sharing. Like when it comes to statistics, like research those numbers before you share them. Like I don't want to say, 71% of people wear Nikes and it's 10. It's like, well, you're spreading misinformation. It's like, well, it's not necessarily like you're trying to do something wrong, but when you do that, you can also misinform people, and your followers and the people that follow you and trust you in what you're doing. You're spreading wrong information, and then that information can get spread even more from just you sharing it with your friends, your family, your sisters, your brothers, everybody. It's very dangerous. But especially when it comes to like breaking news events, when facts are still developing, things are still brewing, like you want to be careful when you share those things and explicitly express that if you're going to share those things, you want to explicitly express that like these things are still developing. This is the information I currently have, and source your information. Like I got it from here. This is where I was doing my research. If you want to do more research, point your followers, point your people to those same sources that you're using so they can verify it themselves. People aren't always going to go read it themselves, but the least you can do from your side is give them the resources to go do the research themselves, which is why I'm including a resource sheet for everything that I spoke about in here that you can go verify, you can go do your own research and find different things on. Because I don't want to just tell you, like, hey, no, go buy a Samsung SSD because they're the best. It's like, well, they probably aren't always the best, or they're probably not the best that works for you. That's a really small example, but like you want to give people the resources to go find it themselves, but share your perspective on the information as well. So consider how different audiences might interpret the content based on their cultural context, based on their context, their cultural context, their thoughts, their demographics. Like, you have to take all these things into account when it comes to sharing information, because you could be sharing information that isn't accurate. You can be sharing information that's not 100% true, or you could not be sharing all the information. And yeah, it can be very dangerous. So, and when you do make a mistake, it's okay. And it's okay. You don't have to, like, freak out, but make it a public thing rather than a silent edit. Because when you make a mistake, it's okay to say, hey, I made a mistake, or hey, this changed, and I'm going to write that with this information, and here's my sources, because you don't want to do a silent edit, because you want to be transparent when it comes to sharing things, because yeah, it shows integrity. Like, you don't want to just like, hey, I said Samsung is voted 99% better than all other SSDs. It's like, okay, well, what sources back that up? Okay, well, I didn't have any sources that backed it up. So I'm going to correct that. That was my opinion. And here is a list of the different SSDs that you can check out and do your own research. Like, you don't want to be saying anything that you don't necessarily know as a fact. So you want to verify these things. You want to be professional. You want to have some integrity. You want to make sure what you're sharing is responsible. So always just be aware of what you're sharing, how you're sharing it. Make sure you're verifying things, giving people resources to do their own research, and, just doing your research to make sure that you are keeping yourself safe. Okay, these are some facts about ethics. Take them how you will. So many individuals and organizations have like incentives to spread misinformation, making money from subscriptions, advertising, and merchandise sales. There's AI concerns, like a World Economic Forum survey named misinformation and disinformation from AI as the top global risk over the next 2 years, ahead of climate change and war. And then, of course, there's a psychological impact. So people report experiencing mental, social, political, economic distress due to the misleading or false health-related content or information that they see on social media. So these are just 3 levels of just like different things that can happen. Like, some people are spreading misinformation, disinformation on purpose. We don't want to be those people. Some people, with AI, there's different things that can be made to look real, and then in the future, like, it's shown that, oh, that wasn't actually real. A good example of this was somebody made a post about, I believe, I'm not gonna quote the exact building, but a government building was on fire, and it sent the stock market into a frenzy until someone verified that the picture was fake, and the stock market recovered. But that's just a example of like AI can be used to create misinformation that can detriment a lot of economic, physical real world aspects that we just wouldn't even think of until it's already happening. And then the psychological impact is like, we don't want to be the people that are out here causing distress on purpose. Like we don't want to do that. We don't want to mislead. We don't want to have false stuff. Like we want to do our research. We want to learn. We want to show that we have some information, and we want to give people resources to go find this information and research it themselves. We don't want to just give information and have no resources behind it. So anything you share, any content you're making, just make sure it's backed up by some actual facts. Give people resources to do some research. Again, we don't want to be causing people pain when we don't need to. So why is this stuff important? As content creators, we have an audience that trusts us. As photographers, as videographers, as creators, we have people that really trust us in what we do. And when we violate that trust, it can spread very quickly, resulting in a lot of disaster that we can avoid by simply making sure that we are doing right by the people that trust us and doing right by the people that we create for. We all have our own audience. They believe in us. So let's make sure that we are doing things to right that trust and honor that trust that people are giving us. So, yeah. That's all I got for you. It's the end of the class. Any questions, any comments, any concerns, please reach out. Thank you.
We don't end the stream yet.
Right, do the wave. How'd I do?
Yes, I was.
And it was just, it was just really like approachable and engaging.